What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here, alongside Josh Davis, getting you guys ready for Eagles versus Vikings tonight on a quick little live show. And of course, you're watching it later on. That's also fine as well. We're gonna be live tonight, 8 p.m. Right around there, maybe 7:45 p.m. Eastern time for our play-by-play and watch party. So go ahead and make sure you guys are subscribed and hang out for that. Josh, though, game day, very important game day. You nervous? What are your thoughts here going into Thursday night?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not super nervous. There's a little bit of concerns, obviously, like we've talked about too, from the Pats game, and what's the team going to look like, the adjustments that we might have or that we're hoping to see. But overall, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I'm less concerned and less nervous about this game than I was going to the Pats game. So
Okay.
maybe I'm in the minority for that. But curious for you, are you more concerned about this one? You kind of going into it a little bit skeptical, or where are you at?
I'm nervous about the defense. I'm very nervous about the secondary without Reed Blankenship, how it holds up. We'll talk about injuries here in just 1 second, but Justin Jefferson can really ruin our night, and he could do a very, very good job at making Philadelphia feel a lot less confident in Sean Desai going into week 2 and then, of course, beyond than where we were at just a couple of weeks ago heading into the NFL season. So we'll see what Jefferson does. But let's first go ahead and jump into some of the injury reports here. You see it up on your screen. That is from Jeff McClain. This is official. No Reed Blankenship, no Kenny Gainwell, no James Bradbury. He is still in concussion protocol. I will say this. Fletcher Cox, the report coming just a couple of minutes ago, he is cleared with the rib injury. He will play today. We mentioned this a little bit here. Of these injuries, which one concerns you the most?
Yeah, I would say it's probably, well, I'd say not even probably. It's Reed Blankenship. I mean, just with his level of play and what he's looked like. Again, it's a small sample size, if you want to say, for this season. It's one game or even barely less than one game. But we know what he was last season. We heard about all through training camp, and he lived up to the expectations. I mean, he was graded as a top 5 safety in the first week of the regular season. So to me, that's a big glaring concern as far as the safety role, but also as the green dot wear. And we talked about it on yesterday's live show. But, Christian Ellis had to come in for Nakobe Dean, who was out on IR until week 6. And then Reed Blankenship was the one that was, well, temporarily Christian Ellis was calling plays, but then the 2-minute offense or the 2-minute defense, Reed Blankenship was the guy who was calling those plays and getting the signals from Desai. So Desai emphasizes and stresses it a lot, as a lot of defensive coordinators would, I'm sure, but you want the cadence there. I mean, just as important as it is for a quarterback and an offensive play caller, you need to have that chemistry. So the question is now, you lose someone in that because you already lost Dean. Now Reed Blankenship's not available. So I guess it's only going to be Christian Ellis, I would assume, possibly Nicholas Morrow, because he was here for a long enough time. I'd assume he could do it if he needed it to. Otherwise, I mean, you're looking at maybe one of the other safeties trying to get the play calls in. I don't know. It'll be curious to see who that is. But to me, for sure, it's Reed Blankenship, the back end of the defense, looking with these receivers like you mentioned. And let's not forget TJ Hawkinson. I think he gets overlooked sometimes because you got Justin Jefferson, you got Jordan Addison, but those are some big moments there. So for me, it's Reed Blankenship. I could see some others though, but what about you? Are you in favor of that? Or are there other kind of, I don't know, concerns as far as a Bradbury, or obviously we got the loss in Kenny Gainwell as well?
I think you summed it up very well there with Reed Blankenship, and it's just simply from a leadership standpoint. Even though he's had 6 starts as an Eagles safety, he feels like a veteran leader, at least in the secondary, especially alongside the other safeties who've hardly played for Philadelphia, and Justin Evans, and of course Terrell Edmonds. So he's the bigger loss. I am curious though what the Vikings are going to do tonight at center, because officially, as you see the Zach Berman report here on your screen, Garrett Bradbury, he's officially out. He will not play, the starting center for the Minnesota Vikings. Now Christian Darrisaw, Marcus Davenport, they're both questionable. Looks like they're going to go ahead and play, but much like the scenario, of course, last week with the New England Patriots, it's a banged-up offensive line for Philadelphia, and you hope that guys like, Hassan Reddick and guys like the defensive front of Jalen Carter, who's plus 165 to get a sack tonight, according to DraftKings reports that are out there. This needs to be the evening.
Sounds like a good bet.
Philadelphia, I mean, for real, where Philadelphia eats defensively. They played well at times last week, and they had moments last week where it was like, okay, you know what? They look pretty good, but they need all of their superstars to go ahead and play tonight. Think of a guy like Hassan Reddick, right? Reddick needs to have a big night. Josh Sweat needs to have a big night. The interior pass rush to get to Kirk Cousins is the really easiest way to win this football game. If they make Kirk Cousins' life hell tonight, it's going to be smooth sailing exactly as it was on Monday Night Football just a couple of, or really just a year ago. Exactly. If they can't get pressure and Kirk Cousins has time, we saw what happened in week 1. The middle of that field wide open, and Philadelphia could get exposed to the really good receiving core that is Hawkinson and Jefferson and Addison, like you mentioned.
Yes, and hopefully that doesn't happen. But yes, to your point, I mean, there is a concern there. And we've got it as well. Powerlifting Star Wars fan has mentioned, I'm very worried about James Bradbury, very solid cornerback, the Vikings wide receiver core, like you mentioned too. And yeah, that's a concern. I think Josh Jobe will be all right. But like you
Yeah,
mentioned there, really the offsetting factor or the fact that will make it better is the pass rush. I mean, if you can get the pass rush, then all of a sudden you don't need to cover near as long. And
right.
we saw a little bit of the quick screen game and the Patriots negating that with the way that they're calling plays. But I don't think we'll see that as much because you got to remember the Vikings offense is predicated on a little bit of a different style. Like you're trying to get the ball to a Justin Jefferson, a Jordan Addison, and that usually takes a little bit more time. And so I think that the Eagles pass rush is going to have a little bit more time to hopefully pin their ears back and go after Kirk Cousins. And if that happens, I mean, we know what he's like in prime time. So it's going to set up for some success. The I guess the exciting part or the most important part coming into the game for me is you want to get the lead early. If you don't, then the pass rush can't so much be like, okay, totally dedicated towards getting to the quarterback, and you have to be offset with the running game. I think if you get up early, especially 2 scores, then it's like, okay, we're in a really good position here because Kirk Cousins is not going to be able to sit back there for forever, and the pass rush is definitely going to be the great equalizer for sure.
Kirk Cousins 12 and 20. You see the Jacob Media Twitter post on your screen right now in primetime games. You know, the Vikings have not won a road Thursday night football game, Josh, in 45 years. It's been that long, as a tweet that I saw a little bit earlier, the last time the
Oh
Vikings
my
won a
gosh,
road Thursday night primetime football game, which is hard to
that is
believe.
unreal.
You and I weren't even thoughts, but, it's going to be very interesting because this game, it matters for the Minnesota Vikings. Now, it matters for Philadelphia. It matters for both teams,
Mhm.
right? Both teams need to win. You don't want to be either 1-1 if you're Philadelphia, but you do not want to be a scenario where you're 0-2. If you're the Minnesota Vikings and you go to 0-2, and let's say the Packers win this weekend or the Lions win this weekend, teams that start 0-2 historically have like a less than 10% chance to make the postseason. Just 0-2, right? Coming back from that is very,
Yeah.
very difficult. The only team to ever win a Super Bowl who started 0-2 was the Giants during the Eli Manning era. So this is going to be a team that remembers what it was like to play in Philadelphia last year, that knows that they can't go 0-2, and I think might see some weaknesses on an Eagle team that's pretty banged up. I mean, we talked about this all the time last year. One of the
Mhm.
great strengths of Philadelphia in 2022, they were never injured. I mean, very rarely did they have one person out, let alone 3 starters out tonight. And I'm curious what they're going to do at the running back spot, as we have talked about, to kind of hopefully expose this defense, which Baker Mayfield was able to do. You're seeing it on your screen. How much Rashaad Penny and DeAndre Swift do you have tonight? That's my big question. Are you getting 20 plus carries from one of these two backs? Are they going to combine for 30 touches? Where are you at on the running back situation for Philadelphia against this Viking defense?
They'd better combine for that amount. I'm going to be shocked and surprised. We talked about it on last night's live show. But if you don't come away from this game, and for those out there that I think both of us have some leagues with these players in them, but DeAndre Swift and Goddard lost some games for me. They lost
Sure.
games for a lot of people. But if you don't play them this week, I think you're missing out because they are going to have big games. In my mind, I think they've even said they're planning on or expecting to. AJ Brown mentioned it. Nick Sirianni, Brian Johnson, everyone has mentioned, hey, we got to get these guys the ball. They're playmakers. They're there for a reason. And with Kenny Gainwell being out, it only seems to suggest DeAndre Swift is going to or should get a lot of
Has
touches.
to.
So unless he gets injured, it's crazy. It would be the most ridiculous thing ever if we're coming away from the game and saying, man, DeAndre Swift had 7 carries and 3 catches, and that's about it. You got 10 touches total. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So no, it needs to be 30 touches combined between Penny and Swift. I do want to see Penny quite a bit. Now, my hope and goal would be you start DeAndre Swift, you build up a lead, and then in the fourth quarter, maybe you're up a touchdown or 10 points or so, and then you insert the shifty tank in Rashaad Penny, and you say, all right, good luck stopping it, because I think that they wouldn't be able to. The defense will be gassed at that point, but that's what I want to see. So I'm totally with you on that. You do need to get the defense off balance. Let's make sure. I think that Hurts is going to play a lot better and definitely be more on clicking on all cylinders than he was week one. The weather is much better too, so we can't
Yes.
discredit that fact. But also the defensive scheme. I mean, no defense is easy, but you just take a look at the Patriots defense, and with Bill Belichick being able to game plan and scheme against Jalen, there's just a difference there. On a shortened week now, I would expect Jalen to be ready. The offense, I know that it was a short week for them to make adjustments, but I think that if you go back and look, and we talked about this earlier too, I mean, there's a lot of receivers, mainly Dallas Goedert, that Jalen missed on several throws. I mean, he had him wide open and he didn't go to it. So you know that Jalen has been focused. He's been watching the tape. Sirianni clearly has not been getting sleep if you're looking at the pressers. So the offense is going to look different, but totally with you. The running backs need to be a main focus of the offense.
It's a big night for Jalen Hurts. It's an even bigger night for Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson has a lot of doubters. Both coordinators do. We'll talk about Sean Desai, I think, in a second. But Brian Johnson has big shoes to fill. Shane Steichen took Jalen Hurts from looking like kind of how he did week 1 against the Patriots, missing receivers, not seeing the whole field, to an MVP caliber quarterback who didn't miss wide open receivers. That was Steichen in 1 year. Now, Brian Johnson is of the Steichen tree, technically, because they worked together and I guess under him as his quarterback coach. But he needs a solid game plan tonight. He needs a really, really great first 15 plays. I'm fascinated to see what the Eagles' script looks like on that opening drive. If I'm Philadelphia, I want the football immediately. I want to go right on the football field and score and put pressure on Kirk Cousins and force him to make mistakes. That's when Kirk struggles the most. If Kirk gets out to a lead, if Kirk starts feeling comfortable, he's a good quarterback. He's smooth with it. But you saw it last week when he turned the football over multiple times. They were trailing for most of that game against the Bucs. The pressure starts to mount. He starts forcing the football, and struggles start to go ahead and happen. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see exactly how that's going to happen tonight with Brian Johnson. And flip it over to Sean Desai. This defense got shredded at times. They played better in the second half against Mac Jones and the Patriots, but there were a couple drives there where people were wide open, Josh. I mean, just running wide open, 5 yards of separation. It got ugly. And Sean Desai was somebody we didn't know a lot of going into this year. We didn't know what kind of scheme they were going to run, how much blitzing was he going to do, and it looked pretty Jonathan Gannon vanilla-esque, right? I need to see a little bit more from Gannon tonight. I think he has to throw in some wrinkles in order to stop what is going to be a very good Viking offense.
Yes, yep, and I know you misspoke there, but you said seeing a little more from Gannon. We need to see
That's
more
what I
from
meant.
Desai,
Sorry,
but yes, I
Desai.
know what you meant. Before people blow you up, because I know people are, what? We don't. So anyway,
Of
but yes,
course.
with Desai, we need to see more. And to your point, like, let's remember last week, Kendrick Bourne looked like an all-pro receiver against this defense. So
Yeah.
even with the lack of scheme, and we talked about Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki, the tight ends feasted, and I think TJ Hawkinson could, if they keep with the soft zone and leave the middle of the field wide open. I think you'll see some adjustments. There will be some differences, I would feel like, but also with the wide receiver core. I mean, Justin Jefferson is a way, way better receiver than a Kendrick Bourne. That's, no news flash there. That's pretty obvious, but you still have to be able to play up to par. Now, granted, Slay is probably going to cover him the majority of the time, but I'll be interested to see if they try to adjust or shift Jefferson maybe into the slot or move over to the other side of the field. And if Slay doesn't go with him, then all of a sudden, I mean, you've got Job, possibly Maddox, or if you're going into a zone scheme and trying to figure that out, I mean, it could be the recipe for a disaster. I don't think it will be. I'm expecting, I'm hoping, I'm thinking that Desai is going to make some adjustments and be ready for it. And like we mentioned a second ago, the pass rush will be the equalizer. But yes, there are some concerns. There's not major, let's blow it up or go crazy yet. But if we come away from this game saying, all right, well, it's another, similar Gannon-esque soft zone. You can take what you want. It's a bend but don't break. Hopefully, that's really not going to be a great news for us. So I'm hoping that we see different. I expect that we will, but that remains to be seen. Desai has mentioned too. I mean, with the consistency, that's what the guys have to build. Hopefully, because there's unknowns. There's lots of players that or a couple players for sure that are going to be pressed into action that wouldn't have or we didn't expect for them to. Now, hopefully, Sidney Brown gets some plays, and we've talked about this quite a bit. This is a hot topic for everyone, and I was surely going to bring it up here. But do you expect? You asked me the question last night, so I'll return the favor. But do you expect to see Sidney Brown at all on the defensive side of the ball?
I don't. I'd be very surprised. I would welcome it, as we all know. I want to see Sidney Brown. I think they're going to roll with both Terrell Edmunds and Justin Evans. For sure, Justin Evans. He started the entire game last week alongside Reed Blankenship. They're going to want the veterans back there, and they want the veterans back there for one reason, and one reason is Justin Jefferson. Not to say Sidney Brown can't run with him, help cover him over the top, but they want experienced people. That way there aren't busts in coverage and blown situations where Philadelphia's defense gets exposed. I'd be surprised. I love Sidney Brown. It's the exact same thing with Nolan Smith. I love Nolan Smith. Do I think they're going to put Nolan Smith at outside linebacker for more than 10 plays, not rushing the passer, sitting back in coverage tonight, like some people on Twitter have said? No, I don't think they're going to. This is not the night
No.
to start experimenting with your rookies. You wait a couple of weeks. You're slowly giving them breadcrumb after breadcrumb of action. You saw it in, of course, special teams in week 1 with Brown. Couple of snaps for Nolan Smith at pass rusher. Tonight's not the night, though, on a short week. Tonight is not the offense you want to go against on a short week where you start to kind of get people, their in-game experience. Maybe it's the Bucks game. Maybe it's, the Jets game, now that the Jets are going to be banged up from a quarterback standpoint. But I would be shocked if tonight's the night that the rookies are going to get any sort of real run time for more than a couple of snaps. But obviously, it's going to be interesting, and we will see. DZ and Kevin with a little $5 entry into our T-shirt jersey giveaway says, "Go Birds." Go Birds tonight. We appreciate that. Again, if you guys are going to be watching the game tonight, tune in on both of our channels during the live stream. Best Eagles watch party, hands down. It's going to be a bunch of fun, doing giveaways, having a bunch of fun. Make sure you guys subscribe and tune in for that. Let's quickly get to our best bets of the evening, courtesy of our friends at DraftKings. We got both promos down below in our description boxes. You bet $5, get $2 in instant bonus bets. Give me a guarantee. Obviously you can't guarantee anything, but what's your best bet tonight for the Eagles game?
My best bet is take Goddard on the over on the yards. I think it's 45.5 if you're taking just the official bet. You can take the same game parlay, and I think it's like a plus 130 for a 49.5, but I would even take that. But my best bet is Goddard is going to get in some action. If we remember to last year, and I had Smitty on my fantasy team, so I remember it very clearly. But against the Lions, Smitty did not have a single catch. And I remember thinking to myself, I thought this was going to be Smitty's year. Now, we know what he went on to do last year.
Of course.
But immediately in that next game against the Vikings, Sirianni and everyone else and Shane Steichen got him heavily involved. It was early, getting him some plays. The first drive for sure is very much scripted. You make some adjustments, but it's very much scripted. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if Goddard gets the first catch of the game. And I like taking a flyer as well. I mean, if you're going to take some bonus bets because you get $200 bonus if you sign up through the link that we have in the description. I mean, not the worst thing to throw a little bit on the plus 1,500 for a Goddard for a first touchdown score. But if you're asking for my lock, I will say the yardage 45.5 over. That seems too easy to me. What about you?
Right. Yeah, no, I would agree. I think a Rashaad Penny anytime touchdown, you get into the goal line, could be, again, one of those bonus bets you throw out there just from
pretty good odds.
You would like to see him get some carries in the red zone. You'd like to think Philadelphia can drive the football into the red zone, and they're going to pound it in. And if Penny's in there, why else did you get him, right? What was all the hype for Rashaad Penny if not for using him in short yardage, goal line, punch it in scenarios? And so, I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be fascinating. Pressure. Let's talk a little bit about what happens tonight if they struggle, because this is going to be obviously a theme in Philadelphia for the next 10 days. If they do struggle tonight, you saw Angelo Cataldi, the former morning show host extraordinaire on 94.1 WIP, talking to Jacob Media yesterday, saying, they looked overmatched. Sirianni's in and above his head. The coordinators aren't great, and starting that conversation that we hope we don't have to have. If they do struggle tonight, though, will you begin to buy into the idea Philadelphia might have too young of coordinators? They might not be experienced enough. The team's not talented enough. What happens tonight if they don't look very good?
Yeah, if they don't look good tonight, I mean, it probably depends on, to what extent.
Sure,
like the game.
Sure.
We got a little
Let's
fan
say
over
they
here.
lose by double digits, 10 or more. It's really bad tonight.
Yeah, if it's 10 or more, there's definitely some concerns at that point. I know it's very early, but there's certainly some concerns. And you would go to, all right, was it the offense? Were they at least able to put up some points and the defense was lacking? I would ask a lot of questions there. But, I mean, overall, yeah, hey, it was week 1. You're not going to look too great. There's some rust, the weather. We know last season even. I mean, there's some games you could go back to and be like, hey, that wasn't really like Eagles football, or that wasn't what we would expect. So it can happen one game. If you see it the second game here, I wouldn't say completely sound the alarms like crazy still, because on a shortened week and you're losing some injuries, I'd want to still give this team the benefit of the doubt. However, it's a Kirk Cousins, it's prime time, it's a home opener. They're going to do a light show. I'm super pumped about that. I can't wait to see videos or, what they're going to share there. But if it's 10 plus, yeah, there's a little concerns, because that wasn't like hey, we were competitive. We just got blown out at home in the home opener. There's certainly some level of concern. I would just have to see, to what extent and who was actually accountable, I suppose, for those.
It'd be very nice for Jalen Hurts to just roll out there tonight and give you that MVP caliber performance that we saw in nearly every primetime game he played in, right? Philadelphia could move the football at nauseum, at will, whenever they wanted during the 2022 season, and tonight should be no different. This is not a good secondary for the Minnesota Vikings. It's not a strong pass rush. Like, their strength is Kirk Cousins to Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson. So they can score points, and if they score 24 plus, that's not necessarily a massive surprise, even if the Eagle defense plays well. But you have to come right back around and buy into a shootout if that's what it's going to be, and move the football in this defense. Everyone keeps saying the Patriots are a top 5 defense. They have one of the great defensive coordinator head coaches in Bill Belichick. They had months and months to scheme. It was just a, bevy of odds stacked against you for the Eagles last week against the Patriots. It's different this week. It's Brian Flores, new defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. It's a group that, again, is nothing to write home about. They're not bad. I mean, still a playoff team, but they're not going to sit there and hold you less than 17 points offensively, which Philadelphia had, of course, when they didn't, score the pick six because that was Darius Slay. Hurts needs to come out here. That opening drive is going to be fascinating to me, and I think he's going to perform, right? I think if you just sit down, you're Brian Johnson, you're Jalen Hurts, and you do what you did just a couple of games ago. I mean, think about it, right? Back to the Super Bowl and into the playoffs. Run the same offense. Do the same plays. Work on some of those quick reads where Jalen Hurts can either hand the football off, dump it off to Goddard in the flat, make a man miss, and keep going. That's all Philadelphia has to do, and I think that tonight's the night to do it, to kind of prove to the rest of the National Football League, hey, remember that team from last year that you guys were terrified of? It's the exact same team, and it might be a little bit better.
Yes, I hope that we see that. I really do, kind of see that adjustment that they make. Granted, the Pats used, apparently, I mean, looking up at Twitter, most of the cover zero, which was a little bit, if you're going back to the analytics and some of the other, more of the expert analysts are saying there were some potential concerns, not always, but sometimes where Jalen might struggle with that. So, do defenses look at that and say, oh, hey, maybe we figured out how to stop. Maybe we figured out how to slow it down. So there's always some adjustments, but I'm with you. Let's get back to what we know. There's a way to get God at the football. I know that you could say, sometimes defenses take away some players, but come on, you can scheme someone open. You can scheme a way to get a player the football and get them involved and start looking around. Jalen missed some passes. He wasn't really seeing the field that great. I'm hoping that we'll see that this week. Get God at the ball, get Swift the ball. You brought Swift in for a reason. I mean, heck, let's use him like the playmaker we expect him to be.
Right.
And then this offense can get rolling. So I'm with you. It's a primetime game. I think Jalen, if for some reason, he was not totally locked in, he was not totally focused, or just struggled. Everyone has struggled games. Everyone has tough games. But this week will be the bounce back. I would expect him to be a lot sharper than he was week 1.
Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings, they threw the football more than anybody in week 1, 75% of the time. And with Philadelphia having, injuries both in the middle of defense at linebacker and with the secondary, it's going to be a lot on the hands of those young pass rushers, right? Not just Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick, but not Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter dominated. He was one of the highest rated defensive tackles in all of football last week. If there was ever a week for Jalen Carter to give you a multiple sack, total disruption of your offense, break a game wide open, and just reach out and grab that Defensive Rookie of the Year award by the horns early in an NFL season, it feels like tonight is going to be the night, and I cannot wait to see not only him play, but the rest of the Eagles. So cannot wait for that.
I hope so, man. I mean, we got Cole Detmer here saying to forget Defensive Rookie of the Year, Jalen Carter is going to be Defensive Player of the Year. So,
good.
I mean, hey, if he does that,
Probably not.
hey, go for a couple sacks here. Yeah, that'd be incredible. I mean, could you imagine the Defensive Player of the Year? But hey, you never know, I suppose. But also, we should probably get Meek Mill to perform. That usually seems to work as well. So if we're going for anything to get a little extra hype, but no, I think that will be good. I do think from the defensive line as well. Maybe Jalen Carter gets to play even more, too. You mentioned it earlier a second ago, but with Fletcher Cox playing, but, to what extent, how much he is still a little bit banged up.
Yeah.
Perhaps that means that you got a combo of Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter in the middle, which they both played very well against the Pats. So I'm for that. And Milton Williams, let's not forget, too. I think sometimes he gets overlooked. There was an article saying, about how good he did. But I think maybe was it Desai or Sirianni? Someone was talking about Milton Williams as well and saying, like, yeah, he's a beast, but, there's a lot of guys on that D-line. So sometimes you don't notice him. Maybe he gets a little bit more snaps, but he had a good week 1 as well.
What up, Donatello Dragon, checking in kind of early. Yeah, we just want to jump on here during our lunch breaks and kind of talk about the birds for a little bit, the way people have something to watch, obviously, during the day leading up to the game. We mentioned a lot of people watching us right now. If you want to come hang out tonight, around 7:45, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, make sure you sub to both channels. We're going live, and we're going to be live the entire game. And so if you want to watch the TV during the actual game and then listen to us during commercials or vice versa, mute them, listen to us, talk birds in the comments section, that's going to be a really, really fun place to do it. And we encourage you guys to go ahead and check it out. It's the best live stream you're going to find in terms of play-by-play for the Eagles. And I'm not even kidding. It's going to be
Not that
a
we're
whole
biased,
bunch of
but
fun. Not that we're biased.
yeah.
All right, let's wrap up with some score predictions here. Josh and people in the comments section, give me your score prediction for tonight.
I'm going to go 34-24 Eagles.
Okay. All right. That's a lot of points. You said the offense gets on track, huh?
It's a lot of points, but I think they do. I think there's a bounce back. The defense with the Vikings is not as dominant, so I think they get back on track. The Jalen is sharper. You're going to get Goddard. You're going to get Swift involved, and I think 10 points. I like the 7. I'm not saying I'm totally in love with it, but if you're going to take a spread cover, I mean, I like the 7. To me, I think that there's just too much amped up. I think the team realizes that as much as, yes, it's a must win for the Vikings. Don't get me wrong. They need to win. They're extra motivated. They lost the Bucks. There's all that. But I don't know. I'm just saying home opener. You got the D line that's going to go to work, I think, on this pass protection for Kirk Cousins and be in prime time. So I think 34-24. That's going to be my prediction.
31-10 says Donatello Dragon. 28-14 says Jay
All right.
Rawls. Self-made entertainment. 31-17. A lot of scoring here. I go 27-24. I think it's closer. I think this Viking team got embarrassed last week and a year ago, basically today, when they went to Philadelphia and just got obliterated. This offense is not going to lay an egg. I think they're going to come at Philadelphia really, really hard, especially with Justin Jefferson early on. Can you withstand the punches, not turn the football over, and make Kirk Cousins do exactly that and give you the ball a couple of times? That's going to be the real difference maker. I can't wait. Tina says 27-7. Kakadoe says 55-0. Wouldn't that be something?
Hey,
Jabberit says 31-28. 24-31. Oh, a loss there from nap time. And then it looks like no way we lose the home opener from LVNRR. So bunch of score predictions coming in right now, guys. We'll see who's right. And, of course, be sure to tune in tonight as we get you guys, of course, with pregame, live, and a little bit of postgame as well here, broadcasting from both of our channels. All right, little noonday lunch break live show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're just joining us, you can replay it. It's going to, of course, loop here, and you can watch the whole thing whenever you'd like this afternoon. For Josh Davis, I'm Thomas Mott. We sign off. We'll see you guys tonight. See ya.
We'll see you. Go Birds.